will our students be challenged to go deeper inside themselves, to play above themselves, to realize more fully their individual and collective potential, to engage in a creative dialogue across time, and to interface with the finest minds and spirits that have ever lived. We're all challenged to embody the best that our way of life affords. But for all the sacrifice of getting a band together, getting parents and alumni and administration invested, learning woodwind fields, shouldn't we play the highest quality music possible? And what we play is the meaning of what we teach. Our music states our purpose. To the nobler purposes go the nobler achievements. God knows our country needs high quality music and engagement with the arts in general. Kids need to be led now more than ever. They need to learn and they need to be taught. Because the musical glories of our heritage are no longer a part of our contemporary cultural discourse. For many of the tens of thousands of kids represented by teachers all over this country, you are the only arts contact they may ever have. Most of your kids' entire cultural experience depends on your teaching. If the future success of the American way of living depends on your teachings, how would you approach lessons, rehearsals, concerts? How would you approach the literature? Now's a good time to rethink our goals. Are we primarily concerned with producing a star soloist or great symphonic players, a halftime band? We want to produce more band directors or all of the above. Sadly, for most of us, a large majority of our students put their instruments away after school and they're never going to play them again. I meet person after person. Oh, I used to play trumpet, I used to play clarinet, I used to play violin, I used to play tuba. If we had a band of used to be's, it would be the largest in the universe. Over the years, it's led me to think, what are our educational aspirations for that third clarinet player in the second concert band? Or the last chair second violin? Or the third trombone in the jazz band? Is it a social experience? An opportunity to make friends and have to talk over some music? Memories of some trophies or plaques that hang on a band wall? Is it a chance to play some very bad music that has become popular far beyond its quality because the principal wants you to keep enrolling up by playing what kids want to play? Colleagues, I strongly suggest that our express purpose should be to create citizens forever engaged with and excited about the arts, not people who never want to see or touch their instruments ever again, not even on holidays. We're all sitting on a treasure trove of homegrown pieces and songs and musical practices that profoundly and directly address cultural ideas that define us as a country. Our primary objective should be to teach that body of work and musical approaches to our youngsters. We're sitting at a musical banquet table of dishes that demand further exploration and can continue to feed our kids' souls for years to come. Yet, few are eating, and no one can figure out why. We have to ask ourselves, how in the world did Louis Armstrong get a better music education in an underfunded, segregated jail for juvenile delinquents 100 years ago than you can get in most places today? And the instruments were provided free of charge. A study of Armstrong's education leads me to suggest that we reverse the foundational principles of how we approach our young people's education. Place functionality before virtuosity. Reverse the emphasis on technical execution to celebrate those aspects of performance that address personal, social, and communal development. Stress music making in a more holistic way with a greater emphasis on public performance. Saturate your communities with live music. People play basketball everywhere. We know that music teaches personal discipline through practice. It teaches responsibility through taking care of the instrument. Teamwork through ensemble playing. Coordination through playing in time with others. Calm under pressure through performance. Confidence through executing parts in front of an audience, and just general swagger through wearing uniforms and sounding good. Then, of course, there are the technical requirements of music. We teach kids to play the tune. We tell them they have to hit notes accurately. You have to play with dynamics, play in a singing style and rhythmically too. Be precise across the ensemble, and of course, follow the trumpets. Then there are modern skills, not normally considered significant, but I would suggest need to be added to our toolbox of fundamentals. Most significant, the American trinity of fundamental democratic skills. 1, improvisation, which teaches self-acceptance and personal pride through developing your own unique sound, which teaches our kids how to identify and investigate their emotional identity through truthful self-analysis, contemplation, introspection, joy, love, sorrow, grief, and pain. All through searching for something meaningful to play in their own language. I used to always love when I was studying theory, they would say, well, they used to improvise in the Baroque era. People used to improvise in the Baroque era, but they stopped. But people used to improvise. When they're speaking about that improvisation, it's always like it's a great achievement. And I say, people improvise in America right now. It's one of our greatest possessions and inventions. All of our kids should know how to improvise. It's their birthright. Swing. How to find and embrace the individuality of others through rhythm. How to realize and accept that there are many ways to solve the same problem, and your perspective is only one. How to create with a group and self-edit to leave space for others and to adjust to changing circumstances with a minimum of fuss. You are not the answer. We are. Perhaps no skill is more needed in our contemporary climate of political divisiveness than this skill. The third is the blues. The blues could be another 2-hour speech. Blues is a 12-bar format of 12 months of the year. The 3 basic chords of Western music. The shuffle of a waltz and a march sounding together. It's derived from the African 6/8 mother clave that rules grooves all over the world. The blues is a major and minor sound at the same time. The blues is the pentatonic scale of Eastern music. And the blues is also a form that leaves more room for response than call. What more do you want than that? It's also a form whose conclusion is always, everything gonna be all right this morning. Everything gonna be all right. You can't go more than that. We need to know it the way an Austrian knows the waltz or an Italian knows opera. We need to know it better than anyone else in the world. I would suggest a deeper focus on institution, a deeper focus and institutional insistence on listening skills. Videos and gadgets aside, listening is not a visual skill set. It requires concentration and development of attention span. Listening also cultivates memory. The oral tradition is an important part of contemporary musicianship. You're going to play music. The greatest gift can be to learn how to listen and how to hear. Because listening teaches good manners, and most importantly, it shines a light on the centrality of nuance and inflection in great music making. You hit all the notes, but I didn't feel anything. It's what's under those notes, because it's always deeper. It's always much deeper than notes. The oral tradition in our music became even more significant in the 20th century with the advent and dissemination of recordings. I don't want y'all to run to transcriptions, because the notes are only the face of the story. For the juice, you have to put your ear on the music. Trust in hearing, and your hearing will develop. There is no science in the world greater than the ability ability to hear. There's no amount of theory, no number of scales, no sophisticated sense of the theory of harmony that will supplant the ability to hear. I would also like to suggest the teaching of national identity through music. The fundamentals of our musical approach were put together at all kinds of different times in our history. Our students should know from playing the triadic grandeur of an Anglo-American hymn like Come Thou Almighty King. They should know from playing early American fiddle tunes like Old Joe Clark and Boiling Cabbage Down. From playing the sound and feeling of American Negro spirituals like Go Down Moses. They should be knowledgeable of the virtuosity and the range of the American band tradition. From cornet soloists and band leaders like Francis Johnson and later Patrick Gilmore. Even later, the great John Philip Sousa and his phenomenal band that took Europe on tour after tour between 1900 and 1910. Philip Sousa also played minstrel songs and ragtime, which Scott Joplin had unleashed to teach the country how to dance and be itself. And around that same time, Buddy Bolden and Jelly Roll Martin were down there in New Orleans creating something that would again show the country who it was by transforming those same Sousa marches in ragtime with Jelly Roll's King Porter Stomp and Bolden's brand of group improvised music that syncopated Sousa's march rhythms into the New Orleans parade rhythm with the unruly sound of a lot of people singing through horns, doing their own thing, but still being together like democracy herself. It was a style forever known as jazz. And it was about communication and love and defeat and victory. And it was much deeper than notes. It was much deeper than notes. And here comes old Jimmy Rogers with his yodeling and Louis Armstrong. And Louis Armstrong and Jimmy Rogers recorded together. And here was Armstrong in the tradition of the great cornet soloists, like Herbert L. Clark, who had played with Sousa. And Louis Armstrong was showing us how to be accurate and improvise, while Gershwin is bringing the jazz and popular song traditions to the band tradition with Rhapsody in Blue. And Duke Ellington, at the same time, was transforming New Orleans music by bringing it to the sound of high society with pieces like Old Man Blues and Black and Tan Fantasy. And here comes Basie and them out of the Southwest, teaching us how to swing. And Benny Goodman had left Chicago for New York, educating the country on the radio. Now they're all out there swinging and burning up roads, showing the entire country what our identity sounds like when it is expressed in music. And back in those days, everybody could dance. Everybody. And it was the music that taught. And let me tell you, when a room of dancers caught fire, the same time as a band, and they started to compete with each other to see who could out-groove whom, it was far deeper than notes. And here comes the war. And then inexplicably, something that had an impact on all of us in this room that we don't know about a lot of times. The musicians' union calls a strike and turns the public against musicians. Never has a non-essential industry during a time of great national sacrifice committed as egregious inactive arrogance and stupidity. Since that time, singers and entertainers have ruled the earth and sent musicians down the slow road to replacement parts. It's time to reclaim our rightful place. It's time to ask for some respect for people playing. To come back to the war, people came home, had a lot of wealth, GI Bill, went to school. The country was coming out of the Depression. We had two bad periods. We had the Depression, we had the war. People couldn't wait to get away from other folks. They began to separate and segregate themselves by race into suburbs. And TV is segregated, but here comes some young people who feel something is wrong. They want to be integrated. They begin to follow a form of music performed by integrated doo-wop